In the world of travel, loyalty is more than points. It's connection, trust, and innovation. Each year, the Loyalty and Awards Conference brings together the visionaries shaping how the world moves. Here, ideas take flight, partnerships are born, and excellence is honored through the Golden Loyalty Awards. This isn't just a conference, it's where the future of loyalty strive. Welcome to Loyalty and Awards.
All right, guys, welcome back. We're still at Loyalty and Awards in Amsterdam. Really excited to have Steve McClelland joining me from WestJet. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the big transitions that you guys went through, and then what's going forward for WestJet in the future. So, Steve, tell me, you guys just made a huge change in your programs, the loyalty programs, right?
Yes, we did. We completely overhauled the WestJet Rewards program. Over the past 3 years, underwent a major transformation of the entire program and all the technology that backs up that program. I'd say the only thing that remains is the name.
That has got to be a daunting task when you go into, because you were originally a cashback program and now you're a points program.
Yeah, the WestJet Rewards program started 15 years ago as a very simple proposition to Canadian consumers, which was the WestJet dollar. And at that time, when it came out, it was very well received, and it was exactly what the market needed at that time. However, over the past 15 years, the market has evolved quite a bit, and what's needed out of our program now is not what was needed 15 years ago. And we felt that we needed to do a major transformation, change the currency, and allow that currency to be more flexible. And that way we can get more partners, we can offer more rewards, we can do a whole bunch of things that we couldn't do before, and we're really proud of what we've been able to do.
Well, moving to points opens you up to points transfers,
Yes.
other partnerships, and other relationships with hotels, car rental companies, everything, right?
100%. Yeah, we just launched, we went live with the program on April 30th, 2025, and we had already announced 3 partnerships that we had been able to sign before the program launched. So we have a telecommunication company called TELUS. We announced a partnership with a food delivery company called Skip the Dishes, and we announced a partnership with one of our largest retailers in Canada called Canadian Tire. And we just went live with TELUS last week, and we had a response from our members that we were not expecting in the positive. Like, far more people signed up in the first 24 hours than we could really ever expect.
So that move, part of it, I'm sure, is for that change. Part of it is probably good business for managing liabilities and all that. But really, it's a customer-focused move, right?
It is a customer-focused move. It's a long-term move, a transformation that we did, like the one we did over 3 years. It's a huge effort by a very large amount of people, and you get to go live with a new program that is much better than the one you had before, but really that's just the start of what you're going to be doing. It's the first phase of a very long-term transformation, with the next phase being an acceleration of what type of features you're going to release and what type of partnerships you're going to do. And then, over time, you just keep building the program, because you've now got a much better platform to work with.
For those who see this that aren't familiar with WestJet's offering, kind of give me the big picture. I know it's mostly Canadian, but North American and elsewhere, correct?
Yeah, for sure. So WestJet is Canada's second largest airline. We've got Air Canada, which is quite a large airline, and we're half the size. For context, in the United States, the best comparables are JetBlue and Alaska. We're not that far off of the size of those 2 airlines, and also from a competitive standpoint, we're also very similar to how they are, going up against really large companies like United, Delta, and American, but really with a pretty sizable network and fleet size and a loyal following of passengers.
So as you go forward now in the loyalty program, we do a little background on Bluewater. We do a lot of content like crazy, and we're doing a lot of travel series and travel shows. One, Lost In with DJ Barbecue, that travels to the secondary markets across the U.S. and soon to be Canada and hopefully Mexico and other countries as we start to expand, right? And when we launched it originally, the idea was that what can you do in 48 hours to 72 hours in any city, anywhere, but not your primary cities. So not first tier, always second tier cities that had lost some of the travel and tourism that they had. For us, when we looked at it, we said, how do we bring some attention to these places and bring some light into it and bring some tourism dollars to some folks that post-COVID had lost, a lot of tourism revenue. How did that period affect you guys? And then are you flying to kind of the same places, some of those second-tier markets that maybe you provide a better service than the other guys?
That's a great question. That's a great question. COVID for most airlines and for WestJet was nearly catastrophic in terms of the business, the health of the business. Overnight, in March 2020, we laid off, call it almost 3/4 or more than 3/4 of the entire workforce, the entire company.
That's hard.
It's brutal. I wasn't there, luckily, but it's just that the impact it takes, the ability, the shutting down of the airline and changing people's livelihoods for a long time, and then lots of starts and stops, which we don't want to relive that time necessarily. But what happened was during that period, WestJet had to rethink what it wanted to be and how it wanted to compete. And through that process, we reoriented where we flew. And we were a Western Canadian-based carrier that had grown and started to become more national carrier, flying in and out of a lot of different cities. We were almost kind of going head-to-head against Air Canada. And we could see that wasn't working as well as we wanted it to work. And so then COVID gave us a chance to rethink what we wanted to do. We reoriented our network and we started flying we reoriented the network back to, let's say, Calgary as our main hub. Then that allows us that strength of the network out of Calgary allows us to consider flying to a lot of different places direct from Calgary. And we have currently 99 direct destinations out of Calgary. We have a city of 1.7 million people, which is not the largest market, but for 99, to get 99 destinations is really great for the city of Calgary. And that does allow us to fly to a lot of locations in Mexico, in the United States, in Canada, and we now fly to Europe and Asia and a whole bunch of other places from Calgary, which prior to the pandemic was not in place. And that's great for the city of Calgary.
That reset, I think, is an amazing thing. We've seen it. We've seen how it affects the tourism in those areas. Certainly, when you create a hub in a spot that drives a little bit, but also the destination reach. From a loyalty program side of it, do you create content now that's outreaching into your travelers out of Calgary or other places? Say, hey, here's some places you should think about.
We do.
Here's what the experience should be.
Yes, we do. We have for the travelers in Western Canada that look at WestJet now as an option to go see the world more so than they did pre-pandemic. You can go to, our program is a great program to be able to help people go see these places. So place like Tokyo and Seoul out of Calgary, places like smaller markets like Puerto Escondido in Mexico or Huatulco in Mexico. Our program is still very flexible in the redemption, and we have a great co-brand credit card product that has a companion pass and a whole bunch of other stuff with it. That is, it allows our members to go and access these destinations much quicker than they would if we didn't have the same type of network and program.
So save a ton of points and get to Tokyo.
Yeah, Tokyo has been incredibly successful. It's I don't know if you've been to Tokyo. It's an incredible city. I love Japan, and the Calgarians and Western Canadians, for that matter, have really taken us up on that. And with the success of the flight to Tokyo, we launched Seoul as well, and that's also an incredible route.
Yeah, I've been to Seoul a couple times.
Yeah.
I have not spent a lot of time in Tokyo, only passing through, but Seoul was just massive.
Yeah. Massive
city. When you get inside of it, and you're like, the number of people and just the experience is really unique. And I think that's what air travel offers, obviously, and that's what loyalty programs offer. Is they start to give your customers and your members an opportunity to say, hey, maybe I will do that, because maybe they wouldn't have financially decided to pay for it before, but now they're looking at their points and they're going, hey, maybe I will reward myself. And that's really what the transition's about, right?
There's two. When we sat down at the beginning of this project and we said, what do we want to be able to do? There's two primary things that our program will do for our members. Number one is it's going to be able to get them to their vacation sooner than they would have otherwise. If they accumulate a whole bunch of points, they can use those points to go to those vacation or to go to those destinations sooner than they otherwise would have. And the second one, and sometimes this happens at the same time, is to make that journey a little bit nicer. Could be a nicer seat, could be a nicer time of flying. It could be a whole bunch, a bunch of other stuff. And those are the two things that we want to make sure we do. And we love it when our members redeem to go to somewhere that they weren't planning on going before, or get an extra trip or something like that. Travel is very expensive now, and the program can help them save.
And everybody's always happy when they get the upgrade, right? And suddenly they're like, hey,
Yeah.
I went from the back seats to the front seats.
It is. They are always very happy. Of course, running a frequent flyer program or the top tier benefit program, there's always a delicate balance of how many upgrades that we give, and it's always I laugh because it is one, it is amazing when you get it, and when you want it and don't get it, we also hear about that.
I've been flying with you for this long,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting because once people pick a carrier, they really stay with them for a long time, and it becomes part of who they are. And we talk a lot, with our teams when we're working with different companies and businesses about brand ethos, right? What is the voice of the brand? I think to today's consumer and tomorrow's consumer is very, very dialed into the attitude and the energy of what a corporation has and what they're offering to their customers, right? We've seen this with Blackstone Griddles and Weber and Greenworks and all these groups in non-travel space, and we see it in the travel space as well, where you really become hyper loyal to those organizations. What's that calling beneath the surface for WestJet? What's that brand ethos that you want people to really lean into and know about what you're trying to provide?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that question. I think the first one is that the guest experience and the way that we interact with our guests on board the aircraft. It's been a part of WestJet for a long time. It's the hospitality that we bring, the friendliness. I think that's sort of the WestJet experience is based on that. That's why we call our members, our passengers, what other carriers would call passengers, we call them guests, and it's been part of WestJet from the very start. I think the second thing is affordability and transparency of the fares and what we offer. I think that's a really critical part. It's part of what WestJet is that we have, since the start, have brought affordable airfares to Canadians and grown the market for air travel since the start of when WestJet started flying. And that continues today as well. Kind of how we designed the program to be as transparent as possible, to be able to allow members to pay in cash or points, or combination of the two, cash and or points in a combination of the two, with no restrictions on inventory. So approaching from a sort of a different starting point than, say, a legacy carrier, so that we can help. Like, it all reinforces itself. It's all, how do you create transparency and trust with your guests, and give them a good experience when they fly.
Yeah, being a good friend to your guests, right?
Hopefully, yeah.
They want a seamless experience. They don't want a stressful experience. They want that journey to be fun and enjoyable.
As least stressful as you can make air travel, which can be very stressful. We try to remove as much stress as we can through all the different ways that we can do that.
So you said that one of the things you said there was the split where you can use dollars or points combined. Is that all the time?
All the time. And so we went from a cashback program to a points-based program, but we kept what we would call the DNA of our loyalty program, and that is the ability to be completely flexible in how you use your points. We've actually made it easier to use your points when we went from dollars to points. Just a few simple rules that on the surface may not seem like much, but allow a lot more flexibility. So like a minimum redemption, for example. We used to have a $30 minimum redemption, what we call the WestJet dollar, a $30 minimum redemption per person per ticket. So say if you're taking a family of 4, it'd be $120 minimum. But that can take quite a while to accumulate $120. We said we don't like that as much. We want it to be more flexible. So 2,500 points, which is effectively $25 of value pre-post, is all you need now. For a family, that same family of 4, you'd only need 2,500 points in order to get that. And we just wanted to simplify it. We just wanted to make it as easy as possible for someone to save, even a little bit. Because if you have $25 or $30 in your account, one, you're going to save $30, but also from a business perspective, you would also give us the first look, hopefully. We want people to be able to use their points. We are not interested in having a low breakage program, which I think is always, it's a tricky balance, but it is, at the core of it is how do you how do you keep your members excited about using their points to help them go on that trip that they weren't otherwise going to be able to go on, or save that trip? It all comes back to that sort of core purpose.
Yeah, you're making it accessible for all. Whether, I mean, you and I both travel a lot.
Yes.
You know? So for me, and for my family, we save up the points for a big trip, right? So once we have collected enough, we're like, okay, we're all going on vacation.
Yeah.
We've got the hotel points from this hotel. We got the airline points over here. We're flying for free. Here's our minimum payment of cash for the taxes and fees, and we're going somewhere really cool. But it sounds like you guys are really open to the idea of making it accessible for all, even not the extreme travelers or just people that travel less, I guess.
I think you and I are in a part of the market that is much more, we have a lot higher frequency of travel. Mm-hmm. The reality is the majority of Canadians, and I think for that matter, most markets around the world, the majority of the public are not going to travel more than, let's say, 2 trips per year. It's either 0, 1, or 2. Mm-hmm. That occupies most of the market. And when those consumers want to travel, they want to be able to use the points that they've accumulated over several years sometimes, and not have that disappointment factor of saving, then looking for something that isn't there.
Right.
You know, that is one of the fundamental flaws of the traditional frequent flyer loyalty program, is that those seats are not there when you want them to be. Now, a lot of programs have taken steps to fix that, or to try to address that. We had never had that problem since the start, because all of our seats are available for redemption all the time, and it's a very flexible thing. So that, I think, for the infrequent traveler, that makes a huge difference, so that they know that when they get the opportunity to travel, they can use the points. They'll be there.
So you get value, accessibility, points, and a customer service experience that's bar none, right?
Hopefully. That's the idea.
That's the goal.
That's the goal, yeah.
Before we wrap up, what's next for WestJet? I know you've added some partners coming in there. You're offering more services, more things you can do with your points. What's next? What's coming in the future?
I think it's the future is very exciting for WestJet. We just announced the largest Boeing jet order in Canadian history. We ordered 67 new Boeing jets, 60 737 combination MAX 8s and MAX 10s, and 7 787s. That will just allow us to continue growing the network for WestJet and being able to fly more places, including hopefully more really cool destinations like Tokyo and Seoul.
That's a lot of planes.
It's a lot of planes.
It's a lot of planes.
Not all completely additive, because you do cycle through your fleet and some of them, but it will be mostly additive, and we'll be flying to a lot more places.
Well, and it's also upgrading the experience. New planes means nicer seats, nicer environments, and who doesn't love a new plane? I mean,
yes, they're all very nice. All the Boeing jets are very nice.
Putting those on key routes, I'm sure, too.
Yes. Yeah.
Just a secondary question on our sense, because I'm interested from Bluewater standpoint, the amount of content we're now creating for a lot of our brands. How much is telling the story of WestJet and telling the customer journey and telling those pieces part of your loyalty program and part of building that connection beyond the points, beyond the experience? How much is telling that story a key to helping people understand the WestJet experience?
I think it's it's a great question. I think it's really interesting that the story that you're talking about, we have just launched a new brand platform, which is WestJet Where Your Story Takes Off.
Nice.
It's a great time, because when you think about your lifetime as a traveler, some of the most important and most meaningful times in your life are the travel stories that you have and the travel experiences, which then lead to the stories. And when you think about those memories, they're just extremely vivid and part of the fabric of your family and how it happens and how your life unfolds. And travel is a really big part of that. And so it's a really big part of anyone's personal story. And so our brand, we wanted to tie that in, because it's so important to understand the role that travel plays in someone's life, and we're very proud of the fact that we hope that we enable a lot of those stories for Canadians.
I think for me, and I think for a lot of people out there, that's those moments and the places you go are the stories you tell.
Yes.
right? Oddly enough, yes, you may tell the stories of your hometown and your family and your connection and that real meaningful point, but you make so many experiences once you step on the plane and where you're going. So the destination, what's Ursula Le Guin's line? It's not the end of journey towards that really matters in the end, but the journey in itself.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think for us in this industry, we get to tell those stories in ways and experience those stories in a way that hopefully motivate people to take action and find those moments in their lives.
I'm really happy to be able to do this interview because I was reflecting last night that I'm about 25 years into this career, and I always love airports and airplanes and airlines. I've always been around it, and I really love it. And I think one of the things I love most about it is that anytime you go to the airport and you look around, every single person that's in the airport has something important going on in their life that day. Business trip, vacation, special occasion, sometimes happy, sometimes sad. But every single person that's transiting through that airport has got something important going on in their life, and it's a wonderful thing. Travel brings people together, and I'm really just happy to be in this career, really, and hopefully I get to stay.
That's a great point, because I see it all the time. And I appreciate you giving that perspective, because I mean, the amount of time I spend in airports, the amount of people I see that are in transit, but you don't always think about they're in transit to something or somewhere, or home from something or somewhere that has meaning. And maybe it's just getting home that has the meaning, right? There
are a lot of road warriors out there who just want to be home, and they travel every single week for work. And like an airline and a program like the one we operate, we know that that's really hard for them, plus it's hard for their family, and so sometimes we design things in our program that help them with that, so they can share some of the benefit. It's just, the understanding how your guests and members, how their life is unfolding, how their story is unfolding, and how can you use a program to try to make that a little bit better. We know that we're not the main thing in their life, but it's something that can hopefully make it a little bit better when they fly and when their family flies.
It's awesome. Look, thank you for spending time with me and allowing us to kind of get inside your head about where WestJet is, where WestJet's going, about that major transition. Congratulations on the award here.
Thank you very much.
From Loyalty and Awards. Well deserved and earned. I can't imagine anybody going through that big of a transition over time. So, and for those of you who are watching, we're at Loyalty and Awards in Amsterdam. Later today, we find out what city we're going to next. If you're in the industry, give WestJet a chance. If you're sitting at home right now and you're thinking, where am I going to fly next? Check out WestJet and their programs and take a trip. Let your story begin right there with WestJet.
That's right. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Awesome.
Thank you.